Hello, in this video I'm going to review Sirui 50mm T2.9 anamorphic lens for Nikon Z mount. Here's the picture of the lens. This is a very unique lens. It is not sharp, but it produces a very unique, nostalgic atmosphere that makes your picture look really special. First, I will talk about what I do not like about this lens. When I unbox the lens, there's a very unique chemical smell. Also, there's no lens hood. Because it's anamorphic lens, it has a very wide view. I do not know what kind of lens hood I should get for this lens. That will not create vignetting. And also this lens is 2.3 pounds. It's relatively heavy for a prime lens, but it's totally manageable. So for an average guy, you should be able to handle this lens, no problem. And this is manual focus only. You have to do manual focusing. Also, because it produces squeezed views, anamorphic lens, you probably will need to invest in an external monitor if your camera does not offer unsqueezed views on your viewfinder or LCD screen. When it comes to raw file editing, you probably will need to spend money on Lightroom or Photoshop to edit the raw files. I use Raw Therapy, which offers only squeezed view for the raw files, but I can convert the raw files to JPEG and edit the JPEG. So it's up to you to whether to spend money on a proprietary piece of software like Lightroom or Photoshop to edit the raw files. The solution I use is very unique. I can show you. As a data scientist, I use my own solutions. I use a piece of Python code to unsqueeze the photos from the squeezed view to the normal view. I use a package called Pillow, so feel free to check it out. If you write code in Python, this is a free option to unsqueeze images. For videos, I use a piece of software called DaVinci Resolve. It's free. And there's a free version, there's a paid version. The free version is enough to unsqueeze anamorphic videos. So you do have free options. Another thing I don't like this lens is that it does not have weather sealing, but most of the time for hobbyists, probably it does not matter because you're not going to shoot under very inclement weather conditions. And a little gripe about this aperture ring, it is declicked, so it moves smoothly, and the focusing ring is very smooth. The aperture ring offers a certain level of resistance. Because it's declicked, when I use the focusing ring, a lot of times I inadvertently change the aperture because my hand touches the aperture ring. So I wish there was like a aperture ring lock the aperture so I don't accidentally change it. Also remember, this is a 50mm prime lens. I will show you one sample image. Despite the fact that it's an anamorphic lens that offers a very wide view, so basically a normal photo on my Nikon ZF is 3:2 aspect ratio or 1.5 to 1. This unsqueezed image is 2.4 to 1. So it offers 60% wider view, which makes a 50mm prime lens equivalent to horizontally equivalent to about 31mm focal length, and vertically, however, it's still 50mm. So you need to pay attention. Do not use this lens as a walk-around lens in the city, because the cities have tall buildings. Because vertically it's still 50mm, you will be limited by how much you can include vertically. Because in the city it's a cramped area, you can't walk into the wall, right? You can't back into the traffic. So for walk-around lens in the city, you are much better off with the 30mm prime lens than the 50mm lens. So despite the fact that it's much wider, vertically it's just a 50mm prime lens, which has its own limitations as a walk-around lens. Next, let's talk about image quality. Wide open at T2.9. This is the area I focused on. When I do this kind of a test, I use a tripod, I use a manual focus. Even if the lens is autofocus, I also use the timer for the shutter release, so there's no movement because I press the shutter release. And also I turn off the IBIS, in-body image stabilization, so it's a very fair comparison. On the left hand side, it's wide open at 2.9, and on the right hand side, it's T4.0. This is the area I focused on. You can see 4.0 offers noticeable improvement in sharpness and contrast. So this lens is best used between T4 and a T8. T2.9, it's not very sharp. Now, if you also notice this lens has a very kind of a unique color tone. It's warmer than the correct color. It's not a deal breaker. I have used Sony a7 II camera, and that camera produced very odd Sony color science, horrible, yeah, back then, yeah. So this color is warmer than normal. It's not a big deal. So now I will show you another picture taken with my Nikon 50mm 1.8 S lens. So when you compare this Nikon picture taken wide open at f1.8 compared to the Sirui wide open at T2.9, you can see Nikon is noticeably sharper with better contrast, and the color is correct. There's no warm tone. Now let's compare Nikon against Sirui at f4. Actually, it's T4, not f4. Even at a T4, even though Sirui has become sharper, Nikon still beat it in terms of sharpness, even wide open at f1.8. By the way, Nikon 50mm f1.8 S lens is extremely sharp. The sharpness will improve slightly as you stop down a little bit, but not by much. So this is really a sharp lens. So Sirui, once you stop down after T4, I think it's acceptably sharp. It's not as sharp as Nikon, but it's okay. Yeah, it's totally okay for a hobbyist to take pictures. So not clinically sharp, but it's okay. This lens, as I mentioned, is not very sharp compared to modern mirrorless lenses, but it does have a very unique rendering. It almost reminds you of the nostalgic lens like Nikon AIS lens built in the 80s, 1980s. It gives a very nostalgic theatrical feel, especially I took these pictures with a black mist filter, a quarter of strength attached to it. It makes the image even softer, but it does allow the light highlight areas to bloom, producing very pleasing effect, nostalgic theatrical effect. Again, this is the train. This is the train. You can see the very special horizontal blue-colored light streak. It's the flare, lens flare is very unique. And because I use the filter, the black mist filter, you can see the light spill over, the bloomy light. It's very artistic. So this lens is really has a niche type of rendering to make the picture look as if they were taken by like a Nikon AIS, the kind of old lens back in the 80s. So again, not sharp but very special. You can see the motion blur and also this this lens, yeah. Train station. This picture I showed you earlier. This lens is very unique rendering, not the clinically sharp, but sharp enough for a hobbyist, and also it is a kind of nostalgic theatrical type of rendering, and also this wide kind of view. It's some of the selling point of this lens. For an average hobbyist, do you need this lens? It depends. If you're really into this kind of wide view and the nostalgic feel, which I believe you can kind of emulate digitally by applying some filters. But if you really like this kind of rendering and also this wide view, and you don't mind a manual focus, I mean, this is a okay value, like $500. Yeah, the build quality is very good. So it's okay value if you're into anamorphic photography. It's a very interesting toy. Yeah, it's not your main workhorse lens, definitely not, because of lack of sharpness and autofocusing, but it's a very unique special lens, something you would take on your vacation and take some really impressive wide shots. I can show you some sample videos, but I don't think it's necessary. There's a little bit of focus breathing if you want to think about the videos, but yeah, this is my video. Thank you for watching.